Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So this one is going to be against Chessleonmaster. Always an exciting opponent to fight. Let's get started. So in this game I played what is called the Tromp or the Trompowski. This opening I honestly don't have much of an opinion on it. Sometimes it's decent, sometimes it's good, and sometimes it blows. So after e6, I get the center, right? And sometimes this is good, but what white has to do is give up the bishop pair for the center. So knight to f3, knight to d2. So white is definitely okay here, and black is definitely okay here. Now as black, d5 is also a move. Knight to e4 is also a move. c5 is also a move. There's multiple ways to play this, but it's hard to say which one's the right way. There is no right way. It's all experimentation. e6 and now e4. I'm controlling the center, h6, so I have to give this up because otherwise bishop h4, g5, and now the pawn is lost. So I have to give it up. Queen takes, knight f3, knight d2, and here e5 is played. I honestly, at this point in the game, I didn't quite know if this was still theory. I really doubted that it was theory because I didn't know if I was playing it right, because I don't play the Trompowski. I just think it's one of those blitz openings that someone with no knowledge could still play okay. So here after e5, I play the move c3. I kind of felt like the importance was really trying to keep my pawn structure, really strong out there, because pawn structure does matter to a certain extent, but strategy matters even more. So after knight d7, I played something very tricky. Knight c4. And first of all, you might be like, whoa, you there, National Master, why did you move your knight twice? And I'm going to show you why, and it's going to be over my next few moves. And our friend Chessleonmaster plays b5, knight e3 played. And to be honest, after knight c4, I was not intending to take on e5. I was not intending to go to a5. What I was intending was I was all along wanting to reroute my knight to d5 or to f5, whatever spot opened up. And I think our friend Chessleonmaster partially saw it, but after b5, when I played knight to e3, our friend Chessleonmaster saw my full potential, right? Coming to d5, attacking the c7 pawn, and at the same time now I have a target. So now it just makes for all good things considered. a6, and I'm like, why not keep hitting at the weak nail, right? a4. Pawn takes, and now I just said knight d5. I could have also played queen takes, to be honest. I could have also played rook takes, right? I think these are all great moves. They all, keep an eye on this really weak a6 pawn. But I played knight d5 because I thought after queen d8, queen takes a4, it would be the same as if I played queen takes a4 first. Because here I said, what happens if bishop b7, right? And this was where I said I would have wanted my knight on d5. So that's why I played my knight to d5 first, and then queen takes a4. So then bishop b7 came out, and I was like, well, I think I get a pawn now. Pawn takes, and now c6. Because if pawn takes, I have knight takes e5. And if bishop d6, well, I can trade, right? I'm happy to trade. I'm a pawn up. I can probably castle queenside. I can put some pressure on this d-file, and things are looking okay for me, right? So that was my initial thought. Queen takes, and just go for it. But in the game, Chessleonmaster played c6. And this was the moment where I was like, where do I go? Do I follow my original intention of e3 and maybe go to f5? Or do I go for knight to b4? Do I go for this pawn? Right? And I decided let's go for the pawn because the pawn looks juicy, and if I get the pawn, it's going to sound pretty good. So after knight c5, I think there's a very good move recognition by Chessleonmaster saying, although my opponent is threatening the c6 pawn, I need to find out a way to counterattack. I need to find out a way to not just simply defend the pawn, but to also create a counterattack. And this plays a defensive resource in the a6 pawn as well, but it just does so much for black. Because it also allows the possibility of d5. And after d5, I was like, wait, this is good for me. Take, and now knight d4. And initially I was like, this looks like an isolated pawn position, right? The pawn is isolated. There is no defender next to it. And so queen c7 was played. And I was like, wow, I'm not sure how to defend that e5 pawn. I play f4, and now g5. And to be honest, I was very intimidated by this move because I saw g3, and I wondered what happened if one day f6 happened, or if one day bishop to e7, bishop to h4 happened. I was unsure of whether I should play g3, and to be honest, I should have. I also considered the move e6. I know, very odd. You might be like, what the heck is he doing? Is he on drugs? No, I am not. Promise you, this is just what I was thinking. Right? So if pawn takes e6, what was I thinking? I was thinking, well, I mean, at worst I can deliver a check on g6, right? And I could also play bishop e2 and open another diagonal. So this is what I was thinking. I really wanted to get the king away from castling. I wanted it to stay in the center because obviously the center is so open, right? So I thought about e6 and I was like, I'm giving up too much. So then I thought about queen to f5 and I was like, this looks aggressive. But is it really the move I want, right? What if bishop g7 just happens? What is my follow-up? If I play e6, well, castles just comes on the board and I look like a fool standing right here. I have bishop d3 maybe, but if queen takes d3, there might be something like queen takes f4, right? So I felt like a fool if I played this. So then I was like, let's play knight d3. I just thought about it. I played 1 minute to think about knight d3. I spent 3 minutes, 4 minutes thinking about the other moves. e6. I thought about g3, right? I thought about them way more. And then I was like, I can't do this. I have to play knight to d3. I need to remove this powerful guy. And heck, I was wrong. Pawn takes f4, knight takes, and now queen takes e5. But queen takes e5 is a mistake. Problem is, I didn't see it was a mistake. So what happened is bishop takes c5 should have been played here, and what I would have done is I would have played queen to f5 to take the f4 pawn and to stabilize, right? I was trying to stabilize. That was my goal. So I played knight takes e5, and then I saw queen takes e5, and I was like, oh, I gotta trade queens maybe, because after queen takes, I may have to consider playing knight takes, bishop takes, and knight takes f4. But then I was like, do I really want to go to such great lengths to do that? And I was like, I don't know. So then I was like, queen takes e5. I played queen e2. But in hindsight, I had a much better move here. And the move is king d2. You might wonder why moving the king to the center when the queen is so close is just this good of a move. And to be honest, it's hard to understand at first, but it's all about seeing what comes after it. Right, so number one, white is threatening rook to e1 to pin the queen and the king. So what black has to do, queen e3 check, and now king d1. And now you might look at this position again and say, how is white better? And to be honest, you don't see it right away, probably. Unless you're like 2400 or 2200 or 2000 or something higher, right? You don't see it. And to be honest, I didn't see it in the game, so I don't blame you. I think it's a very hard move to spot. But the continuation goes bishop takes knight, bishop d3, and the idea behind it is the move rook to e1, because this queen has nowhere to go, right? If it goes queen to e7, you still play rook to e1. If it goes anywhere on this e-file, you play rook to e1. You can't move it anywhere to the side because all those squares are occupied. If you move it to f2, queen takes f2. So the best continuation is bishop takes d4, rook to e1, castles kingside, and now rook takes queen. So after bishop takes, black has a decent amount of pieces for white. White taking the queen. But still, white just has the queen, the rook, and with the help, white can transfer these pieces over. And all of a sudden, it's better for white. So just goes to show how hidden these moves are. So queen takes e5, I played queen to e2. Queen takes, I decided to play bishop takes because I decided after rook f1, if you play bishop d6, I'm just going to castle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play bishop f3 and I'm going to go after this d5 pawn because I realize that the f4 pawn is really hard to grab at the moment. So here our friend Chessleonmaster ran out of time after rook f1. So what can we learn from this game? Right, the opening was fine, knight c4, and the first critical moment was the move b5, right? Knight e3. I think b5 was just not necessary. It created more of a weakness than it did become a strength. So I would say, go with something with g6 and bishop g7 and castle. And what b5 did is it gave me knight to e3, a4, this knight d5, and I was activating my pieces. And here what I should have done is knight to e3, bring my knight to c4, brought the rook to d1. Maybe I should have brought the bishop to c4. It's hard to say. But I failed to really spot that c6 shouldn't have been my main target. My main target should have been f7. Who would have knew? And who would have knew that rook to d1 and just piling up on the d file would be so powerful, right? So I concentrated on the wrong things in the game. So knight to b4, I was a bit attached to it, and after queen c7, f4, g5 was intimidating. I should have still played g3 and followed through with it, or I should have played queen to f5. But after knight to d3, queen takes e5, there's king d2, which I didn't spot, but that's okay. And so after bishop takes c5, I would have played queen to f5 like I mentioned, but here the game ended. And to be honest, I mean, Chessleonmaster was on par with me the whole time. Just a few things went astray. And the game changed. So regardless, it was a great game. So hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.